Welcome to the Nairobi Health Show, everybody. Today I've got Crystal O'Keefe, one of the founding original members who started using the Peloton and does a podcast about it. We're going to talk all things Peloton. Crystal, this will be a fun interview.
I'm excited. Thank you so much for having me, Dave. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it'll be fun. It's pretty cool that you were right there at the very beginning. I mean, everyone's heard of a Peloton now, but back in the day, how did you even learn about it before everybody else?
So I live in the Midwest. I'm in St. Louis, Missouri, and I was interested in getting back into spin classes. I had taken them
Yeah.
throughout the early 2000s, and I was trying to find a place where I could take spin classes, and I couldn't find them anywhere that worked with my schedule.
Hmm.
So Facebook heard me talking about it and served me up an ad for Peloton, and I was instantly hooked. I was like, what is
Okay.
this thing? I need it.
Okay, well, let me read your bio and we'll start there. Crystal O'Keefe is the creator and co-host of the award-winning Peloton fan podcast, The Clip Out. Crystal's obsession with Peloton started in her 40s as a corporate America employee, never running more than a mile in her life, to become an active athlete, personal trainer, and nutrition coach. As an early adopter of Peloton in 2016, the podcast has documented the evolution of Peloton from plucky startup to household name to cultural phenomenon. She's also interviewed hundreds of fellow Peloton members, as well as Peloton executives and instructors. That's pretty cool. So it all started with you looking for a spin class.
It did. It did. Yeah. I just wanted to find that energy that you get from a spin class. And I was like, wait, you can do this at home? This is amazing. So I got really excited about it, told my husband about it, and he was like, yeah, I'm concerned this is just going to turn into a coat rack, like your elliptical that's sitting there unused.
Fair complaint. That's what
It,
happens with a lot of home equipment, right?
It is. It absolutely is. So we made a deal. We were right in the middle of our house was for sale, and we made a deal that if our house sold for asking price, that I could get a Peloton for our new home. And I was very excited because the day we put our house up for sale, we got 3 offers, and so I was like, yes, I get my Peloton.
Yeah, well, there are some people that think they have to sell their house to get a Peloton. I mean, they're not cheap, right?
They are. That is true. That is true. However, I will say that if you do a little spreadsheet analysis on this, your
Yeah.
return on investment is actually very quick because classes where you take boutique classes can cost anywhere from $25 to $40 per class, depending on what city you live in. So if you're taking a spin class once a week, 2 times a week, that adds up really quickly. And then whenever you have Peloton, not only do you get all of the spin classes you want, there's no limit whatsoever. You also get access to all of these strength workouts and all these other things. Now, back in 2016, they did not have all of that. That has been added since then.
Yeah. Well, I totally get it. I mean, for me, when COVID kicked in and lockdown started, and I'd been doing CrossFit, which is super easy, not easy workout, but super easy in terms of you put on your workout clothes, you go to the class for an hour, they tell you everything to do, you just follow along, right? And I love that, right? I love the simplicity of it.
Yes.
And then, of course, COVID comes and so I got myself a rowing machine. Now I considered a cycle,
Yeah.
but I love to row. And I also love the fact that the rowing is whole body. So regardless, I just went with the rowing machine. A lot of similarities. In both cases, you're sitting. Of
Right.
course, the movements are very different and the workout feels different when you're done. So there's some similarities and differences, of course. But the similarities are you do it whenever you want.
Mm-hmm.
I bought a rowing app and I put it on my iPad and I sit there and I watch it and I do these follow along workouts. Sometimes if I'm going long and slow, I put on a movie,
That works. That
right?
works. You know,
So the
it's
convenience and the control over it and the fact it's in your house and you don't have to worry about how you look. You don't have to, you don't even need to look in the mirror to make sure you're okay before you walk out the door, right? Just hop on your machine and go.
yes, absolutely. It's to me, I always say it takes away all of the barriers, all of the excuses. Now you can do any of the workouts, and for Peloton, for me particular, one of the selling points was having that instruction, that energy that comes from that. You sound like you are a self-motivated workout person, which is wonderful. I've never been one of those. So I need somebody that's leading me through it to say, okay, let's go harder now. Let's go easier now. I needed that instruction when I first started.
Okay, well, and spin classes. Now, it's funny because just this afternoon I was talking to a physical therapist. I had shoulder surgery just a few weeks ago,
Okay.
and I'm getting therapy twice a week, and I was chatting with my personal trainer, my physical trainer, what PT? Yeah,
Physical
physical trainer,
therapist.
physical therapist. That's what I was saying. Trainer instead of therapist. My physical therapist, and he was telling me how he's been cycling for the last few years, including doing a century last year with his wife. And he's been doing a lot of riding and would set his bike up on the trainer. And how this year, she said, I've got a goal to hike Timpanogos. We have a mountain close by to us here in our valley that's a 11,800 foot peak. And
Wow.
it's a brutal climb. It's a very difficult hike. It's something that is a kind of a life goal for a lot of people to make it to the peak. And it's 8 miles up and 8 miles back down, and a lot of work. And so they started hiking instead of cycling.
Yeah.
And he's telling me, Dave, I am putting on fat. I'm losing my muscle. My strength is just dying, because there's nothing quite like cycling. And then when I was a serious triathlete and I was doing, 50 to 70 miles during the week and 100 miles on a Saturday on my bike, we would sometimes go to a spin class. If it was really bad weather on a Saturday, I would go to a spin class. And I'll tell you
Sure.
something, I was in like world-class shape, and a spin class would kick my butt every time.
Sounds like you
Right?
had some Tabata in that class.
Yeah, well, yeah, you almost do, right? Like it's almost no spin class is generally slow.
No.
They work you. And for those of you listening, if you've never done a spin class, or you've never just hopped on a cycle with a trainer and done an hour-long workout, there's nothing quite like it, right, Crystal?
That is absolutely true. Absolutely true. And that's one of the things I love about Peloton is they have so many different kinds of workouts where you've got those really hard hitting workouts. And in the last few years, they've integrated power zone training, which is excellent for triathletes, by the way. And
Okay.
then they've also incorporated a lot of endurance and recovery rides, which is wonderful for people who they want to go hard every day. And so they kind of need to be reminded, don't go hard every day. That's actually not good for you. So those
Right.
recovery rides are excellent.
So how many times a week do you ride on your Peloton?
So I use Peloton probably 3 to 4 times a week. And then I also do strength training on the other days of the week. So I've been working on my running and trying to incorporate that as well. So I'm trying to do all the things.
Great program. That's a really good program. And then of those 3 to 4, tell me the mix of types of exercises you do.
Yeah, that's great. So, one of my classes is always like a really hard hit class. Like you said, those are my favorite. They're the most fun. They really get you going. They get that adrenaline rush. Love it. And then I do at least one 45 to 60 minute nice slow endurance ride. And then I have one that is just for fun. So there's so many themed classes on Peloton, and they're with my favorite instructors. Like Jen Sherman, she does a class that is my favorite, sold out show, and it's just a whole bunch of great anthems singing. And so that's just fun to feel like you're in the class with people. So I have at least one fun class a week, and then I have one hills ride a week that I make sure that I do if I'm doing a for that week.
And do you always do a class, or do you sometimes do your own thing?
I do always do a class. The just ride or the scenic ride options are wonderful for people who again are self motivated. But myself, I really like that instruction. I find that's what brings me back is feeling like I'm part of the class. So for me, that's not as
Mm.
fun if I'm just doing a just ride. Um, the only time that I would ever do that is if I have like a really, really long workout, like you were talking about, like 50, 70 miles on the bike. I don't tend to do that. But if I was doing that for charity or something, I would probably string several classes together. And then there would be a section of just ride where I was just going and not trying to follow any instruction. But a lot of people do those. Those are great too.
Okay, but for you, the whole social aspect and being connected, even virtually with other people, that's a big part of it. Of course, you didn't have that when you started.
I didn't. Yeah, when I first started, so I've always been very shy, very introverted. And whenever I first started on Peloton, I kept seeing all these people interacting, and I was like, how do I become part of that? Whenever I
Huh.
first joined Peloton, the Facebook group, they had 8,000 people on it, and there's like 150,000 people now. So it was very small back then. That felt small, and you
Yeah.
saw the same people talking over and over again. So that was part of why I was excited to start the podcast, because I got to talk to those people. I brought them in and interviewed them and got to know them. And so it became the clip out itself became a kind of a sub community of Peloton, the larger community.
And so the history then, it started small. They had a vision, but they didn't have all the pieces in place. How did it evolve from there?
It evolved from there by a lot of word of mouth. I've never seen community anywhere like I've seen at Peloton. People
Hmm.
who have been with the company for years, they've been part of the ridership or part of the community. They talk about it, and it's almost reverence. Like if you run across somebody wearing a Peloton t-shirt, you instantly recognize them as a kindred spirit. Even if you have nothing else in common, you have that in common. And I can't tell you how many times I've been somewhere and somebody will be like, Peloton, who's your favorite instructor? And we have a whole conversation about what they do and where they live. And it's fun.
I had no
And
idea.
Yeah, I mean, it's a whole thing. I never
Huh.
travel without wearing at least some Peloton gear, because in the airport is the best place to find Pelo people. Um,
Hello, people. That's awesome. This is a lot like
uh,
CrossFit. I mean, CrossFit got to the point of everyone else thought it was just a cult.
I
They're
mean, a
like,
lot of people think that about Peloton. So yes, it is
I did
similar.
not know that.
Yeah. Yeah, there
Okay,
was
interesting.
I feel like it was either New York Times or USA Today, Wall Street Journal. One of them called it the Cult of Peloton, and they had a whole article
Ah.
about it. But yeah, CrossFit has very like rabid fans, just like Peloton. So it's
Yeah, yeah, it's been accused of a cult that's a cross between a biker gang and a fitness club. Like that's kind of CrossFit had this whole kind of somewhat dark image, but
yeah,
really going for it. Dark branding and really kick your butt kind of workouts and a little bit of a military feel as well. A lot of WODs dedicated to military and stuff. So it's interesting to be around movements like that have this tight knit community that evolves with certain code words. There's probably words you guys use that no
yes.
one else would know what they are and stuff like that.
Yeah, we talk about things like magic pants or PRs or your stack, your class stack, what classes you stack today to be able to get all your different classes in. So yeah, we have, like when you said WODs, I was like, yeah, that's exactly it. A CrossFitter knows exactly what you're talking about, but you probably have to translate that for people outside of the CrossFit community sometimes.
Interesting. So you've been there that whole time. You've started your podcast. Um, when did you start the podcast?
We started the podcast. So I got my bike July 15th of 2016, and we ended up starting the podcast in May of 2017. So it wasn't too long after that. And we've been going strong ever since.
That's a long time. There must be a lot of listeners.
Yeah, there are. Yeah, we have tons of listeners. I feel like now when I travel, there is never I don't think there's a place on this planet I could go to where we could not find a listener to hang out with and meet in person if we wanted to and they wanted to. We've gone to Alaska and met people. We've run across people on accident in Walt Disney World. It's so fun to meet people that listen and they get to hear what we're talking about. And again, we're like-minded people because we love Peloton, so we already have that in common. You just hug them because you already know you have things in common.
Cool. So for those listening, and probably some people listening have a Peloton. I mean, when I started the podcast, of course, we had no listeners. Now we have like 10. So out of that 10, someone's got to have a Peloton,
At least one.
at least one. But the other 9 people listening, tell them why they should get a Peloton, why they should consider a Peloton.
Well, there's a couple of reasons. One, Peloton is so much more than a bike now. It used to be that everybody when you said the word Peloton, it was synonymous with the bike. And now Peloton has a treadmill. They actually are coming out with a rower. Just saying, Dave, if you ever wanted to try out their
Mm.
workouts. And they have strength training. They have boot camps. They have shadow boxing, Pilates, bar. They have prenatal classes, yoga, meditation. And so it's evolved into this thing that for $45 a month, you have access to all of those things, even if you have one piece of equipment, or you can have access to all of those modalities and pay, I think it's $12.99 for just the app if you don't have their equipment. And you can use it on an iPad, just like you do with your rower, and you can still have access to it. So that's the biggest reason, because they have something for everybody. The other reason is the community. They're amazing. I used to really not enjoy social media because it was negative, and there's so much positivity in my social media feed because of Peloton. There's wonderful, supportive people cheering each other on and celebrating accomplishments, and it has become a haven of positivity instead of negativity. So that's the other reason, not to mention the world-class instruction.
Cool. And meditation. So I'm picturing people, what are they like on their bike slowly pedaling while they do the meditation? How does a
No.
Peloton meditation work?
Yeah, so even if you have a bike, you still have access to the app, and so you can do your meditation anywhere. I tend to do the sleep meditation, so I am usually laying in bed when I do mine, and you can do them anywhere. They have meditations you can do on the plane. In fact, Delta has some of the Peloton meditations on their apps whenever you're flying, so you can do meditations while you're flying.
Interesting. And how much is a Peloton bike these days?
I think we're at 14.95 for a bike plus, and I think it's 1,200 for a regular bike.
Oh, that's less than I thought.
Yeah, it's gone down quite a bit. One
Oh,
of the company's big pushes is to really make their equipment accessible to as many people as possible. They say they want to democratize fitness. They want it to be available to everyone.
I love that. I paid $1,000 for my Concept D rowing machine. Concept D is the competition in rowing machines.
Absolutely,
And
absolutely. I've heard that many times. People love their concept rowers.
yeah. It's hard to pry one out of our fingers because anytime we go to a gym, if you've got a Concept D and you're traveling and you go to a gym and they've got a rowing machine, I don't care what it is, it never compares. You want the Concept D. Like there's a reason why every CrossFit gym has them and many other gyms have them. But I'm sure that Peloton, it's a well-managed company. They've done a great job. I'm sure they are aware of this. I'm sure they're going to really put a lot of research in. There is some variation in what people like. I noticed on the Apple Fit app, they all use the real water rowing machines, and some people like that. I don't like the feel of it, but it's like a
Interesting.
cylinder with water, and as you pull, there's blades going through the water, so it gives the same type of a pull as if you were in a boat rowing in water. I don't really like that, but a lot of people do. So there is some personal preference here. That'll be interesting to see what they come up with. So back to the one listener out there who probably has a Peloton. Let's talk to
Yeah.
them for a minute.
Okay.
Talk to them. You've learned a lot. You've interviewed a lot of people. You've become expert in how to get the most out of a Peloton.
Oh, for sure.
So why don't you share some of your top tips for, you got this machine, you're paying $45 a month. How do you really maximize your usage?
First of all, try a class with every single instructor, because everybody, if you say, which instructor should I take a class with, every single person you ask that will have a different answer.
Mm.
You and I might have similar opinions. We might have completely differing opinions. I've had people that I consider like my best friends take classes, and they like completely different instructors than I do. Um,
Right.
You can find something positive in every instructor, but there's usually 2 or 3 that you really mesh with. And so I highly recommend taking that. They have all for one classes that they used to do every year on the 4th of July over that holiday weekend, where they would all share the stage and each instructor would come out for a couple of minutes. Those are excellent classes to kind of get a taste of what each instructor is like. So that would be one of my tips. Also, they came out with a lane break this year, and it is a game that you play similar to Guitar Hero, but it's on the bike. So the faster you pedal, you get rewards, or it'll say, hey, increase your resistance, and you skip over to this other lane and you go
Huh.
faster to do certain things. And it's amazing and a lot of fun. So I also recommend that people check that out just for something completely different. And also make sure that you try out the Pilates, the bar, the different strength classes, especially if you have free weights sitting around. When you're traveling, there is nothing like getting frustrated at, like, you missed your streak. If you're a Peloton person, you like to make sure you get all of your blue dots. So being able to take those classes while you are on the go and you don't have access to your equipment is amazing. They also just came out with a feature that I really enjoy called Just Work Out. So if you go for a walk, you can just turn it on. You can just turn it on to go running or walking or even biking outdoors, and it will count towards your Peloton count. So for us nerds that like the streaks, that's amazing.
Cool. So, and it probably syncs with devices, your Apple Watch or whatever, Fitbit.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's interesting what you said about trying out instructors. I'm a picky person and I'm judgmental. This is like this is what I have to work on, right? And
Sure.
I and I love Apple Fit. I
Okay.
got it the day it came out. I was looking
Okay.
forward to it. I knew it was coming, and it started with a small library, and
Yep.
it's grown. And the lesson that you taught about choosing instructors, I've learned that lesson. For example, one Sunday morning, I wanted to do a 30-minute yoga class, and I'm scrolling through, and there's a lady teacher. And I'm just going to say it. She didn't look fit. She didn't look
Okay.
like the typical yoga instructor I'm used
Sure.
to. And
Yeah.
I was ready to just pass her by. And then I caught myself and I was like, wait a minute, you don't know anything.
Good for you. Good
You
for
don't know. She's on there for a reason. And I thought, I'm going to give her a try. And she's now one of my favorites.
Exactly. You never know.
You don't know. And sometimes our human prejudgment or these little thoughts that we have, or sometimes we think, oh, I don't think I'd resonate with that person just by looking at their picture. We prejudge. I think I'm not the only one who does this,
Oh, you're definitely not. Absolutely.
yeah, I've learned that lesson personally, to just give people a chance. And so anyways, that's served me well with Apple Fit, and I love the advice that you're giving here with Peloton as well. Just
That's awesome.
those of
I'm
you
so
listening,
glad.
yeah.
I, when you take those classes on Apple Fitness, do the classes teach multiple modalities? So like if you took a class with a yoga instructor, do they teach anything else, or do they just tend to teach like one?
The way Apple does it is people tend to stay in their lane,
Hmm.
but cross over into someone else's workout. So let's say there's a rowing class. The rowing class will often have 5 people. And on one bike might be your yoga instructor, and on another bike is a strength guy, and another bike is a runner, whatever, right? But the one instructing is usually someone who maybe was on an Olympic rowing team,
Oh,
right?
awesome.
Or something like
Yeah.
that. And so they tend to be well certified,
Hmm.
but then they form a group between, I think they must just all work together. But those that are leading a certain class generally tend to have expertise and years of experience in that modality.
Got it. Okay. That
Yeah.
makes sense. Yeah.
It's pretty fun. I mean, we'll segue just for a second, but Apple Fit is very different than what we're talking about here. And it doesn't create quite the group feeling like you're talking about with Peloton. But the really cool thing about it is what happens is you, first of all, you sync it to your watch. So you turn it on, you choose your exercise. It then has a big green play button come up on your Apple Watch. And when you hit play, the data from your watch goes onto the corner of the screen of the TV. And so it's picking up your heart rate, so how hard you're working, time elapsed, interval time, how how you compare to the group that you're working out with, where you are in the pack, all that stuff. So it's been good. It's been good. It's not like you're describing. It's not like I would never ever find another Apple Fit person out in public. We would never find each other.
You wouldn't find each other.
No,
You're
no.
not sporting your Apple Fit clothing to go
There's
find
no
other people.
t-shirts, no nothing. It's just do it in your house, and then no one's ever gonna know. But it's a nice little add-on for me. What it is all these additional things, yoga, core, warm-ups, warm down, meditation. They have a lot of things in there. So it's worth looking at. But it sounds like you get all that from your Peloton. So that's cool. One fee, and they keep giving you more and more and more. So that's pretty sweet.
Yeah, it is. It's neat to see the community grow, and it's neat to see the company grow as well.
Okay, so let me check my notes here. I want to make sure I cover everything. The Science of Peloton, you've touched on this a little bit, that it's more than just a bike. And is that mostly when you make that point that there's more to it than just a bike, is that because there's other machines? Or if, we tend to think of Peloton as the bike, but if you have the bike, you can do much more than just do cycle workouts, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. If you have the bike, you have access to their app. So that means that you can take any of those classes automatically. It's included in your membership. So you can take classes with the strength, and you can do the yoga and the meditation and all of those things. It's automatically part of it. So, and to your point, like the Apple that has your watch connected, if you have an Apple Watch, or if you use the Peloton heart rate monitor, you're able to see your metrics live on the screen, and you're able to see the leaderboard of how everybody else in the class is performing as well. So you're not only tracking your own metrics, but you're able to see how you place within the rest of the community that you're riding with.
So there's a competitive element as well.
There is, yeah. And some people really thrive on that. I am more of the person who's like, shut it down, because all bikes are not created equal, and they're not all calibrated exactly the same, and people can change the calibration on their bike, and that is one thing that I'm not a fan of. So I don't like to focus on the competitive nature very much. I'm not the strongest person, or the person who can hit the highest PRs, the highest output. So if I were to focus on that, I would be constantly disappointed. And I think that it's cool when people do that, but it's just not something that works for me.
Yeah, which is great, because that's just true everywhere. And being self-aware and putting your ego on a shelf can be the better way to go for a whole lot of people. What's in the future? I mean, it sounds like the Peloton company is on an upward trajectory. They've already done a lot of good things. What's coming next?
Well, since COVID has kind of slowed down, people are opening back up. This year, 2022 has been a very different year for Peloton. It's actually slowed down quite a bit. They've had to make some major changes. The CEO stepped down this year. There's a new person that is in charge. They have a new CFO as well. It is not on the growth path that it once was. Having said that, let me be clear. People who have them still love their bikes. They still love their treadmills. They still love their equipment. But I do think that people viewed it as a COVID stock. And so what the future holds, definitely more growth. The rower is supposed to be out this year. They just recently came out with the guide, which is a camera that helps you check your form as you're doing strength activities and things like that. And I know that they have more to come with that particular device as well. I don't know what all they're going to do, because they are very quiet about their roadmap, but I have no doubt that Peloton is going to be around for a very long time.
But it sounds like if all they had is what they have now, you'd be very happy.
I would, absolutely. Yeah. If they never changed another thing, I'd be very happy. Definitely.
And it sounds like you probably paid more for your Peloton than someone would pay now. They've come down.
True. Yes, that is true. I did pay more. But, I will also say it's kind of like if you're a person who took, a drug when it first came out, you were the first person to take a brand name drug, then later on, as that wears off, that patent wears off and it becomes a generic, you end up paying less for it over time. And so does everybody else. So it's like you're paying for that initial research that went into it. And that's the one downside of being an early adopter.
Yeah, but here you are doing the podcast. I mean, your bike has given you its value years ago. It's been paid for
Absolutely.
forever, and I think it's cool that they maybe could have raised the price given how much people love them and probably still done okay. So to me, that's really impressive that they lowered the price. I like that. What did you say?
Democratize fitness. Yes.
Democratize fitness. Well, this has been fantastic. I've got one last question about nutrition, but before we go there, is there anything else you want to tell us about Peloton?
Uh, Even if you're a road cyclist, even if you're a person who has always been CrossFit, I definitely don't sleep on Peloton. Don't assume it's not for you. Don't assume that it's something you wouldn't enjoy. I have met so many road cyclists that encourage me to ride outside. I never would have been an outdoor rider had it not been for people that I met through Peloton. So be open-minded and try things, or try Apple Fitness, try other things. Don't just assume the way you've always done it is the best way to do it.
Yeah, I mean, that is kind of the bottom line of what has made this so cool is the web, is the internet, being able to connect, being able to do workouts with other people virtually. It's a really, really cool thing. And it sounds like Peloton has done that maybe better than anybody else. Because like I said, I do virtual workouts, but there is nothing like what you're talking about. There's no one wearing their t-shirts. I don't bump into anyone in an airport and know that they do the same workout as me. And so they've taken it above and beyond, which is really cool. Now, if I understand right from your backstory, you weren't in terrific shape
That is
when you
correct.
started,
Yeah, that
but
is
now you
true.
are.
Yeah.
And as you've gone, you've learned that it's not just all about being on the bike. You've learned some tricks in the kitchen too. So tell us about your evolution there of going from being whatever shape you were in when you started Peloton to adopting a fitness routine, and then when and how did nutrition become more important to you?
Yeah, that's a great question. I always knew that I needed to eat better, but I thought that I've always been told less calories, like calories in versus calories out. That's how it's always been explained to me to lose weight. So I've always struggled with my weight my entire life. When I found Peloton, that was the first time in my life I'd ever exercised on a regular basis for an extended
Hmm.
period of time. And when that happened, I started meeting all of these people that made me curious. What else can I do? And so then I started running, and then I started biking outdoors, and I participated in events like duathlons, which I never would have thought about doing.
Wow.
And just to be clear, never won anything, and that's not my goal.
Yeah.
My goal
Right. Right.
is just to do it. But
Yeah.
through that process and through the podcast growing, we learned about a company called MetPro, and they started talking about reverse dieting and how you can take periodization that you do in bodybuilding and use that to do the same thing with nutrition. And in fact, that, and you probably know this, but it was new to me, the less food that you eat, the slower your metabolism goes. So after you've been dieting for years, like I had kind of trashed my metabolism without even understanding that that's what I had done.
Yeah.
And so I felt lied to by the world. And so
Yeah.
that made me start getting more and more curious, which then led to me becoming a personal trainer, which then I started getting my personal, my nutrition certificate so that I could understand that better.
Right.
And now I'm a coach for MetPro, and I help
Cool.
people with those same concepts every day.
I love that, and I am a certified fitness nutrition coach as well. And I don't charge for it or do it. I just wanted the knowledge, right? But what I do is I offer free consults for my customers, and I do those on a regular basis. And as you're talking, I'm just nodding my head because Crystal, this won't surprise you, but it might surprise people listening. You'd be shocked how often I encourage women to eat 400 more calories a day.
Absolutely.
That is often the case. I'd say it's more often that I'm having to encourage a woman to eat 400 more than 400 less.
I believe it. And I used to work out 5, 6 days a week. I was eating 1,100 calories and I couldn't lose any weight. And then when I started eating more, to your point, I was able to actually work out less, not necessarily less often, because I enjoy working out 5, 6 days a week, but less intensively, and eat more and still lose weight. And that was
Yeah.
amazing. I was very shocked by that.
There's a lot of counterintuitive information in health.
Absolutely. I
That-
100% agree.
Yeah, yeah. Interesting. Well, it's been super interesting, Crystal. Thanks for coming on the show and telling us about Peloton. I've learned a few things here. Our all 10 of our listeners, I bet, have learned a lot. So to those of
Thank
you
you so
listening,
much. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I've enjoyed talking to you.
yeah. So how do people learn more about you, or if they want to reach out, what do they do?
Sure. So you can find our podcast anywhere that you get podcasts. You just search for The Clip Out. You can also go to theclipout.com and get all of our episodes. We have a Patreon, patreon.com/theclipout. And you can find me anywhere on social media at clipoutcrystal.
Sweet. Well, thanks a lot for coming on the show. It's been educational, and I'm tempted. Because it was a big debate for me between whether to get a bike or a rowing machine. It really
Sure.
was. And more than once, I've thought I kind of like both. I
Yeah.
really would.
I don't blame you. I love all the things. I like having
Yeah.
options.
But this sounds really fun. And so, and knowing that the price is reasonable now, because I don't know what they were before, but 1,500 is perfectly reasonable. There are way lesser quality machines out there for 1,500 bucks. I can tell you that.
Absolutely. That is absolutely true.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Crystal, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you, Dave.
For those of you listening, this is Dave Sherwin wishing you health and success.